Good evening, everybody. Welcome to CW Live. My name's Chris Webb, Head of Communications at the CWU. Brilliant to be back hosting today and getting a chance to interact with you as members. We've got a cracking show for you today. The union, as you know, priority will always be in the workplace, and we're unique in that sense that we have a rep in every workplace, we have a presence, and we've got a brilliant culture as a CWU, one that's the envy of the UK trade union movement. But equally, we do some fantastic work outside of the workplace as well. And one of the organisations which we're so proud a part of our union is CWU Humanitarian Aid, CWHA. We're delighted to have with us Carl Webb. Afternoon, Carl. How are you doing?
Chris, you all right, mate?
Yeah, really good to have you with us as well. And Julia Upton. How are you doing,
Hi,
Julie?
Chris. Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
But great to have you both with us, and we're really looking forward to getting into the chat today. Just before that, though, just a couple of notices, if you like. One is that the BT pay ballot is ongoing. So, please use your vote. It's important. It's your chance. Obviously, the executive recommends you vote yes. But the most vital thing is that you actually exercise your democratic vote right, and you use your vote in that ballot and you cast it. Secondly, another ballot. The post office ballot, pay ballot, opens tomorrow. Another good settlement secured by the postal executive and the negotiators. Again, same message. Executive recommends you vote yes, but the most important thing is that you use your vote. Final message before we get into the interview is that Tony Booch will be with us once again next week, our National Delivery Officer for Royal Mail. There's a delivery survey. Again, it closes next week. Really good. Get out there, check your email inboxes, fill it in so we get as many responses as possible. But Tony's going to join us next week to both go through the results of that survey and talk once again all things delivery. So that's all my notices done. I'm going to come to you guys now. Just before we do, though, come to you, I have had the privilege, if you like, to be part of CWHA and to go on the trips and see the fantastic work you do. We're going to talk about that in quite some depth this evening. I thought it would be good if we played a little bit of a video that we've got, which is a bit of a roundup of all of your fantastic work. So we can play that first of all, everyone. That's a lovely video. Carl, I'm going to come to you first, if I can. Our Northwest Regional Secretary, but also heavily involved from the creation of CWU Humanitarian Aid, 30-year anniversary noting and celebrating this year. But, we're going to get into some depth around the projects that, you support and the charity supports here and further afield. But first of all, just want to give a general sort of take on CWHA. I was going to say in a few minutes. I know that's going to be a challenge, isn't it, given all the work you do?
It'd be a challenge for me, as you well know. I can talk a little bit. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting us to do this, Chris. It's a great opportunity for us to be able to, obviously, sort of like explain to our members the work that we do, and hopefully generate maybe some more volunteers, people who want to get involved. As you said, the charity was set up 30 years ago. I was one of the co-founders. I was a young 33-year-old, so had hair, which wasn't grey. But we set it up 30 years ago. The response to an appeal that was made to us from some people from a town called Tuzla, which was part of Bosnia. As some people will know, there was a war raging in that area. And we were approached because it was a multi-ethnic city, Tuzla, in Bosnia. And sadly, it was being attacked from all quarters. You had 60% of marriages were mixed and so on, Serb married to Muslims and so on. Now, we gave them some funds, and then we went, really, we should do maybe a little bit more. And maybe we should do something in solidarity with our postal and telecom members in Tuzla and the families. And so we sent a vehicle over to go with another convoy, joined another convoy, and they went over. We got over 300 volunteers who wanted to go, even though it was still classed as a war zone. So we sent 4 people, there was 1 from the Midlands, 3 from the Northwest, 2 telecom, 2 postal, went over, and they got locked in a compound, and authorities were trying to take the aid off them. And the reason I'm telling this story, because it actually developed to what we became. And these 4 really brave members of the CWU refused to hand over the aid. They wanted to get it to where it was supposed to be, delivered to the point of need. And at the end, the authorities gave up, and those people delivered the aid to the postal and telecom workers who needed it. And then we decided that would be our philosophy. That would be our aim and objective, to deliver to the point of need. And that was what we started. We did 6 more trips to Tuzla, and then someone who came along and said to us, have you thought about doing work in Bulgaria? And we went, Bulgaria? And we went over, we sent 6 vehicles, and we found out that there was orphanages, there were hellholes, the children were 4 in a bed, soiled, there was no heating, there was no glass in the windows. It was awful. And we worked with a charity in Bulgaria, because that's important for us, because obviously we're all volunteers, we're all telecom, postal workers and that. We've all got jobs to come back to. So we need to work with a reputable charity in country. And we've been able to do that over the years. So we did that work in Bulgaria. We put pressure on the government to close these hellholes. So we were successful in helping other organisations to do that. And then we've done work in Mongolia as a street children. And then we sort of then did work in Africa, which Julia will cover. We've done more than just take convoys. We've built foster adoption centres. We've helped build a disability centre in Moldova. And most importantly, and I know some people have tried to criticise us, saying, well, why don't you do anything in the UK? I always go back to these people and say, well, let us know what you're doing and we'll work with you. They normally don't have an answer, but we do a lot of work in the UK, and we have over the last 10 years, working with centres that look after families impacted by domestic violence and stuff like that. So we have done many projects, many trips over the last 30 years in the name of the CWU, with members from across the UK who've got involved, whether it's visiting our projects in Africa, whether it's volunteering to do work in Moldova or Eastern Europe, or whether it's to do work in the UK. And most importantly, I'd like to finish on this, we also support our members. So if our members have grandchildren or children who need specialised equipment, sensory equipment, new wheelchairs, or are unable to get an operation through the NHS, hopefully that's improving now, but we've helped out. And I think that's important.
Oh, I've got to say that, should say that's an astonishing story, mate, and a huge credit to you and Julia and all of the team. I think it's right to not just save that well done to the end of the show, but it's incredible, mate, yeah.
Like I said, I could have gone a lot longer, but I'll cut.
No, it's fantastic. And we've got a full hour, so you've got loads more opportunities. We're going to hear from you loads more. Julia, I don't know if, Carl's covered some ground there, hasn't he? And really, really well, but you obviously, I'm sure, want to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I came much later into the CWHA story. I was on the executive at the time. I'm now retired, but was on the executive. And I was involved in fundraising. I obviously was aware of the CWHA. I'd done some sponsored walks and various other attempts to raise money, but hadn't actually got directly involved. I was busy on the executive at the time, got a young son of my own, and really wasn't giving up the time. And as you said at the beginning, I was very much of the view that the CWU, its main focus is the industrial side and representing members in the workplace, and had kind of not really grasped the main role that the CWU have outside of the direct workplace and what we needed to do to appeal to people who wanted to get involved in something, what were by their nature active, but were looking for another outlet. And I'd missed how important it was to get involved in voluntary organisations, how good it is for the individual, as in myself, as well as the people that you're out to help. And it was, at the time, people were saying we're doing convoys out to various places in Eastern Europe, would I be interested? And I said, No, I'd seen some of the things that were happening and some of the orphanages, and I thought it's going to break my heart. I can't do that. Plus the fact I wasn't a confident driver, and the whole purpose of a convoy was to take the aid directly to people, the children that needed it. And then Alex Pearson, who was a trustee at the time, said to me, well, how about Africa? We've got a project in Africa, orphanages and sponsoring children in Africa and schools in Africa. Would you be interested in that? And something just clicked. It was like, I can do that. It still can be heartbreaking, but it's actually very heartwarming to go out there. And I went on a trip out to Africa, and I was hooked at that point, seeing the difference that we made. And what I would hope from today's show is to try and get over the passion that the volunteers feel and the difference that we are making. I mean, you've said about people say, well, what about the UK? And that is really important. But if I can get across to people how a little money makes such a huge difference to the children that we help in either whether it be on the convoys or out in Africa, and why it is so important to us. If we can get that across today, it's our 30th anniversary. As I say, I wasn't involved from the start in the same way that Carl was, but anything that we can do to encourage people to either get involved themselves or fundraise for us, because we can make a huge difference to a lot of people. And that is what I hope to get across in this show.
I have to say, you've both already got that across to your credit. I think it's doing a great job. Carl, often on the weekly show, either myself or Michael are hosting, and we're talking about how bad Royal Mail or bad BT are and stuff like that. On this, work that you've undertaken over many, many decades, build, through building relationships for our deputy general secretaries, general secretary and others, you've worked quite a lot, haven't you, with the employers, and they have been supportive. Is my general understanding. Yeah,
I mean, when we first started, it was us just hiring vehicles, going to companies. And then obviously with the job as regional secretary, I obviously work close with companies that we are obviously organising, and that'd be BT, Openreach and Royal Mail. So a couple of the volunteers said, how about us approaching the businesses? And there was a national officer at the time who was a really great friend of ours, Arthur McGuinness. And Arthur was a national officer for Parcel Force. And he asked for a meeting with a logistics manager called Ken Mabbott, who I wouldn't like to have been across him on the negotiating table, let's put it this way with Ken. But he had a big heart, and he agreed to loan us 3 vehicles twice a year. And that was the start. And then we went to BT, and then we went to Royal Mail Group, and basically we were able to take more aid. We even had Royal Mail ringing us when the Ukraine, obviously when Ukraine was invaded and refugees were fleeing and what was going on, and they said, are we going to do something? And I've got to tell the story that we got contacted by a pastor in Wales who knew a union rep, David, and we got his name right, and he had over £1 million of aid that he needed to get to the Ukraine, and he chose us because he knew that we were reputable, and he knew he could trust us, and so we moved that aid, and then through that NHS Wales were closing down the Nightingale hospitals, and they had over £1 million of hospital equipment that was going to be landfilled, and they didn't want that to happen. So they asked us, would we be interested in, and you were talking about stuff that had not been used. So we actually took that and got that through a charity called Mad Aid, who I'll go into a bit more later on, who are like our partners. We transported and got some of those materials to hospitals in the Ukraine. And the reason we were able to do it as well, by the way, was the response from the branches and the CWU, who gave us enough funds for us to be able to also use Royal Mail, but also to hire vehicles, because we couldn't use Royal Mail or BT vehicles going into war zones, but we were able to use companies that were going into there to take that aid. So yeah, so we've been very, very lucky with Royal Mail, but obviously we had a bit of a lull with them. Because of COVID, we weren't really able to send convoys, or we suspended them. Then we had a few disputes with the companies, and so we sort of lost that relationship. I'm pleased to say, due to Martin Walsh, the Deputy General Secretary Postal, and Andy Mercer, who's the Telecoms TFS, we've now got an agreement to use vehicles again for September for a convoy to Moldova, which is the poorest country in Europe. It's terrible. Obviously, it's a difficult situation for Moldova. They're not part of the EU. They're right next door to Russia. So we've now got agreement with the business to start working with us again in the partnership. And I know there's going to be an email going out, and what we're looking for is now saying for more volunteers to come forward who might be interested in driving a vehicle to carry aid and to deliver direct to orphanages, disabled centres and so on. And we are looking for new volunteers, people of all ages, people from all businesses within the CWU. You know, it's not just, you don't have to just work from Royal Mail or BT, you can work for other companies as well. So if you're interested and you just want to find out more, please use the email address that I'll be going across the screen.
We hope so, yeah.
Yeah.
Gary, our tech wizard, will be
Yeah,
right on that as
but
well.
it is honestly, it is a bit of a newsflash because we've only just got the agreement with those two businesses on the last couple of days. So we're really pleased to be able to announce it today.
A nice CW live exclusive.
It
Look,
is,
Carl, well done, mate.
Definitely.
Thank you for that. Thank you for giving us the exclusive.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Julia, both of you actually, but I'll come to you first, Julia. Somebody I know we could never do a show like this and not mention is our former Deputy General Secretary, Andy Kerr, such a supportive figure of the charity, you know, whether that's been himself personally going and getting involved on the convoys, whether that's been raising money on the walks, and, you know, as Carl just said, you know, building relationships with BT and Openreach. I know that you'd want to say something, and I know also that you guys have been planning ways to mark Andy's fantastic contribution, haven't you?
Yeah, you said, it's the 30th anniversary, so we were intending to mark the 30th anniversary anyway, with various events. Yes, I want to mention Andy's particularly. We are using the 30th anniversary as a timely way of remembering Andy and hopefully making him very proud, as we were of him and how active he was with the CWHA. We are running a project, and we've already mentioned Moldova. Andy went out to Moldova. He felt very passionately about it. He was a great supporter of the charity, and we want that to be his legacy. We know he would want that, and
There he is on the screen now.
that was on the hike.
Yeah.
That, 3 years ago. I
Yeah,
can't remember which one it was.
Longmynd hike.
Andy, every year we have a hike over Longmynd. It's the Wales and the Marches, Mid Wales and the Marches branches have organised it for many, many years now, and executive members and Andy and Andrew, as you could see there, regularly came on that hike. What a laugh Andy was. I mean, what a great guy. Unfortunately, he passed away just before one last year. It was difficult to do it without him. And we said we can't let the 30th anniversary go by without combining the two. We want to make Andy really proud, as we were of him, in raising a record number. We've set ourselves a target of £40,000 to go towards the Moldova hospital and children's play area, and it's in Andy's name. We have just passed 10,000. We are absolutely adamant that we are going to do this for him, in his name and his legacy. So yes, sorry, I'm feeling a bit emotional.
I can see
it means a lot to us, and we know it would mean a lot to him and to Andrea. So please, we've got the Just Giving site. Anything that anybody can do, whether that be branches, individuals, it means a lot to us. And
Thank
you. I know that's difficult. I think I really do appreciate it. Carl, I know you're eager to come in there as well.
Yeah, I am actually. I mean, I didn't mention Andy because I said to Julia that Julia would obviously mention Andy's contribution, because I know she was close and worked closely with Andy. I mean, Andy was a good friend of the charity. I mean, when he was president, he wasn't Deputy General Secretary at the time, he was president, and he came to us and said to us, right, and I can't do a Scottish voice, so I'm not going to do Andy. And he told, I couldn't do Andy's. Andy told us basically for me to go away and knock up what I would like from BT. I mean, he just said it to me. He said, I'm going to go to BT and get you an agreement, a 5-year agreement, So I did this document. And he said, no, you've not asked for enough. And he added in. And we had a meeting and with BT. And basically we got this agreement. And then we used that basis to then do the same with Royal Mail to have a 5-year agreement. And I remember, I mean, Andy came over on a convoy with Tom Keeney, who was the director of BT. And he was really supportive, Tom, as well. I've got to say that. You know, it was quite, you know, obviously I'd seen Andy and Tom go at each other regarding negotiations. Don't get me wrong, when it came down to negotiations for the members, no pulling any punches. But when it came to CWU and it came to helping children, it's a different ball game at the end of the day. And like I say, Andy was a legend for us. And he was so supportive, and we couldn't have done what we have done over the last few years without him. And just to say, his family are now getting involved because Matt is now doing his son Matt is doing a 1,000-mile bike ride over 10 days in Scotland to raise money for Great Marsden Hospital, who looked after Andy, and also CWHA. So we'll be coming out for getting sponsorship for that, and he's doing that in July.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And, I hope if Matt, Andy, Andrew, you're watching, you know, best of luck to you all as well. And you know, Andy's very, very much missed and by all of us.
Yeah.
Julia, I want to talk about some of the projects, if you like, because I think it's interesting to the members watching and others people watching. You know, I think with CWHA, what's just, you know, we want to get across really is just how much the help gets right to the where it's needed. First of all, like 100% of the funds generated get right to the front line, which is different to some organisations and some charities, isn't it? And just, you know, how extreme some of those situations are faced by individuals, like Carl said, particularly children. And I think the first area I want to chat about is Tanzania, because I know you're passionate about that yourself. So a little bit about, you know, the background, you know, what you saw and felt there, and the work we've been doing.
Yeah, and it is a unique charity. I'm not taking away anything from any other charities. No. There's a lot of good work done, and people have their favourite charity. The reason I very much got involved with the CWHA, though, is I saw very quickly, as Carla said, it's all volunteers. There is no overheads, you know. With all the will in the world, big charities, they have no choice but to have overheads, and a good percentage of what people donate will end up being lost in that. With the CWHA, it's all volunteers, and we pride ourselves on every penny that we take. We make it clear where that's going, and it is delivered directly, so no money is lost along the way. In the case of Tanzania, first thing I ever did was a skydive for them, and raised a significant amount of money. And what I was so thrilled by, we actually calculated that for £40 a year at the time, and I don't think it's a lot more now, it's probably about £50 a year now, but for £40 a year, that money paid for a child for the whole year, gave them a school uniform, gave them education. They were at kindergarten age. So in Tanzania, the children don't start school till later. And a lot of children, 4 or 5-year-old children, families couldn't afford to send them for any sort of pre-state education. And sadly, the lives that they lead and how much poverty there is, they are sent out to work at 4 years old. Things like breaking rocks. What they do out there is, in order for building materials, they have rocks, and the children go and break rocks. It sounds really extreme, but that's their life. What we discovered is, if we could pay for them to have, say, education, the priority is not education. The priority is to take them out of that environment, allow them to be children, be safe, be children, get a meal, one meal a day, which in a lot of their cases that is the only meal, and it's like a gruel, like a porridge, but at least it gives them the nutrition, and you know they're guaranteed to get a meal a day. And when I realised that for £40 a year, as I say, it's probably about £50 a year, but not a lot more, that was allowing a child to go to school every day, have a meal every day, have a little school uniform, so that they felt a part of something. And they've got a playground, and they can go and have an education. They're taught basic English, because in Africa, having English is a huge skill for them in order for them to progress. But more importantly, to play. So we've focused on what is it the children want and need, and if that's a playground for them to be happy, then that's what's important to us. I went out there, and I've now been out on 4 occasions. The third time I took my son with me because he was, I think he was 17 at the time. I'd gone previously when he was only about 13, 14, came back, and as every parent does, actually, sadly for him, it was beginning of December. And I came back and he's asking for these things for Christmas, and I'm saying, the typical, you don't know you're born. If only you could see what the children out there. And he used to, oh God, I wish you'd not gone. And I said, one day I'm taking you so that you see for yourself. And it was an amazing experience for him to go and see it as well. And so yes, so I've been 4 times, and as I said before, it can be heartbreaking because you see the lives that they have, but what you also see is the difference that small thing makes. And all of the people, when I went out, and the trustees who went out with me at the time, self-funded. We went out, wasn't costing the charity, and we were taking and buying food provisions, books, for education, and we were buying them and then delivering them to them, because with all the will in the world, places like Tanzania, if you just send money, there is no guarantee that money's going to end up where it needs to be. And that's the same with all of the projects we have. We have the projects, as I say, the convoys. What is so important is volunteers drive the trucks. We raise the money, either the money or the goods, to go on the truck and take them out. And we know they are being delivered and where they're going and how that money's being used without any overheads. And I think that's fairly unique. I mean, there may be some other smaller charities that do it, but fairly unique, I think, and that's why it's so important.
It's fantastic. Thanks, Julia. I guess, Carl, the same question about Moldova and the Phoenix Centre, because I think, that's another project, if you like, with just so much information we can give members, and I think it gives people just an idea of how much impact the charity's having.
It is. I mean, I just want to say something about the people who go over to Tanzania. They actually fund that themselves. Yeah. And I mean, that's what Julia said. It's really important. No trustees, how we operate, no one claims expenses, no one claims honoraria, we don't pay any wages or anything like that. We are lucky that way, and
people sort of get the bug, don't they?
They do.
You see that sort of stuff that Julia's describing, and you can't walk away.
No.
And I don't want to make that sound really selfless.
No.
It is a bit selfish because it's what we get out of it. I actually say a volunteer gets as much out of it on a personal level. So.
And like I say, some people might not be able to afford to do that, but there is also what they then can do is look at ways doing sponsorship, raising funds, because that's important. We don't employ any fundraisers or anything like that. So all trustees are fundraisers, and if you get involved in charity, you do become a bit of a fundraiser as well. And I think that it works. It's a model.
You are an incredible fundraiser, Carl.
I get told that.
Yeah, Carl is, by the way, viewers, the master of pestering.
Yeah, I am. When it comes to the charity.
Just charity.
And also I'll be regional secretary job as well a little bit. But you're right. Yeah, I'll take that one.
That's a massive compliment. By the way.
But when you talk, when you talk about Moldova and the work we've done there it's a Phoenix Centre. It's a disabled centre. Yeah. It's there's only 2 in Moldova of its kind, and to be fair, it was the vision of Victoria Dunford, who is the founder of Mad Aid, a charity that we work closely with, and got to say, Victoria's an amazing person, and she was. I mean, she's still young, but she was very young when she set this sort of charity up. She is from Moldova, and she lives on the Isle of Wight now, but she does spend a lot of time in Moldova, and she's been awarded the highest honour in Moldova. She's a driving force. Anyway, she came up with this idea. She saw this old Soviet Union school, and she thought, you know what, I'm going to fight to get that off the Moldovan government. It's doing nothing, it's just lying there, and I'm going to turn it into a disabled centre. Like I said, there was one more in Chisinau, which is the capital, and she went, I'm gonna do that. Anyway, she heard about us, and we heard about her, and we sort of partnered up, and we raised funds to help get it built. We took aid over, we still do. We take over, like equipment. We were taking radiators, we were taking wiring, because it was, funny enough, it was cheaper to get it in the UK and then get it over there. But also she wanted to make sure it was of a high standard. Yeah. We then got rooms sponsored by Openreach, the CWU, CW Island, and I haven't mentioned CW Island, and that's really a miss of me not to do that, because the charity in 2008 entered into a sort of relationship with CWU Ireland, our sister union in the Republic of Ireland, and they're not as big as a union as us membership wise, but my, do they punch above their weight. And Jimmy O'Connor and people like that and have helped us develop a relationship, and they've played a major role in the charity now, and I'm sorry I should have mentioned that earlier, and they got involved in this project as well, and we are so proud that it's now its 10th anniversary, and it's done so much good work in the community. It wasn't just about looking after children who got disabilities, it was supplying wheelchairs, it was about getting children out of homes, it was about parents who haven't got to work and the children's will be just locked in an apartment, was to get them to this centre. But it was also about doing interventions. They did, I think they've done thousands of interventions where they'll provide physiotherapy for children who've got problems with their limbs and so on. I don't think I can do justice what that centre has done. And like you say, it's the 10th anniversary this year. And they've now got a hydro pool in there. I mean, it's growing and growing. Because of the vision and the drive of Victoria, and we're so proud as a charity that we're a small part of that as well. Probably a bit more than a small part.
You're underplaying it there.
Yeah. But so
I mean, that's
the work.
That's another thing I've noticed with you guys and all of the volunteers that Lenny and others on CWHA is like the last thing you search for is personal credit, which is probably, you know, another example of why the charity is so special is everyone's just getting on with it quietly and doing their purchases. Testament to you guys,
as you mentioned Lenny, and there's loads. I mean, we haven't covered the work we do in the UK, which is led by Paul Newsham, who's one of our trustees, and it basically came about. If you don't mind me talking about it, it came about because we were asked by a union rep, would we support a Christmas party that was being done for children who basically were living in a hostel. Their mum, mainly mothers, had fled domestic violence, and they wanted to put on a little Christmas party, and all it was £500. And we said, yeah, we're more than happy to do that. And then we heard about there was a family that had there'd been a fire, and they'd lost all the Christmas presents for the children, and they never told us. And if they told us, we would have helped. So then we went, well, look, I think there's a lot more we can do. And the centre is in Blackpool. Now, people know I'm from Blackpool, but it really didn't come because of that. And there was a lady called Heather O'Hanlon, who's now retired and now living a good life in Spain with her husband, Peter, who was a union rep. And she said to us, well, would you be willing to enter into a partnership? She said, because people who are living in these hostels are not just from Blackpool, they're from all over the UK. Yeah. When you flee, you don't flee to your own town, you flee to other towns. And people have got good memories of places like Blackpool. Anyway, we went, well, yeah, let's have a look at it. And basically now we're in our fourth, maybe fifth year of working with them. Basically we supply, when the children flee, they're normally given second-hand clothing to go to school. We went, no, we're not having that. So we supply them with school clothing, we supply them with school bags, we'll supply them with school equipment, but also when people arrive, there's packs there for them and for the children, for the mothers as well, of all the stuff that they need. There's clothing, we supply buggies, prams, and so on. And I'll give you one story. I'll finish on this with a story. There was a mum, and she partner at the time decided he was going to beat her up and smash the house up. And the landlord, he then fled, and then the landlord said to this the mum that she was going to be held responsible. He owed her money, and basically then she had to go into a hostel. And then she couldn't get put on the housing, for social housing, because she had this debt. And we found out about that. It wasn't a lot of money. And so we were able to we paid that debt. Now, I'll be honest with you, this mum was scrimping and saving, had a part-time job, and she was trying to pay the debt off. She wasn't asking for handouts. Yeah. She was trying to sort it herself, but we wanted to help her and speed it on. Anyway, they moved her into a house, and we were able to social housing, and we were able to supply them with washing machines and stuff like that as well. So that was just on the back of a little bit of money and a little bit of thought to go into it. And I've got to pay tribute to Paul Newsham, who is the driving force in regard to that, like Alex is with regard to Africa, and Trish and Steve who do our work project, who lead on our projects in Moldova. We are a good team. But no, I just wanted to tell that story. And it doesn't. We work as, we're not a big charity, and we don't try and do the big corporate things. So we'll support little organisations. There was a group of housewives who were providing pyjamas to disadvantaged children in the UK for Christmas Eve. And we help them to be able to go and do that. And we try and do that a lot, just help small organisations, to do that. And then we'll buy the stuff. That's important. We'll go and purchase it. We don't just hand over money. So we know where the stuff is going, and it's going to go to where it's needed.
Thanks, Carl. Andrew.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. There's so much to talk about, isn't it? I've deliberately left this question to this point because I think, anyone listening to the show who was, coming on going, I came on here to find about BT pay, or I came on here to, my revision in Royal Mail's not working, and saying the union should be focusing on the workplace. I'm sure, having listened to everything you two have just said, has gone, wow. But, there are people who, who join the union and we hear it, don't we, if we have a political campaign, why is the union getting involved in politics? Or if we help in the community, why is the union doing that? Just for your perspective, obviously former member executive and obviously Carl, current regional secretary, for both of you, why is it important, do you believe, that the union never forgets its primary objective, but also branches out to do different types of work, including everything you've just so passionately set out?
Well, I don't think it's an either or. That's the point I'm trying to make. All the people who think that, quite rightly, that's the priority. I agree with them. It is the priority, but one isn't exclusive of the other. And people who naturally care, and I would say that, I'd like to think that most union members care. We're a collective. The whole purpose and the whole ethos behind a union is the power in the collective. And I don't think that stops when you walk out of your office or your delivery office or wherever you work. That doesn't stop there. If you care and you believe in a collective force for good, that sounds a bit, didn't mean you to come across quite like that, but it's, we are a collective force for good. And the union has a big part to play in that. And it doesn't matter whether it's politics, wider society, charity. Why wouldn't you harness that enthusiasm and that desire to make the world a better place?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether that be a better place in your workplace or a better place in your local community or wider society. I think the union and union members, because we're not the union.
No.
The union members are the union, and I think the average union member agrees with us that our remit isn't just in the workplace, and that we should be making a difference. And I think hopefully it's come across. You can make it a little bit go such a long way. Some of these smaller UK charities, we have the bigger projects, and they are going to be ongoing. We've made a commitment. We're not going to walk away from commitments we've already got. But if you know out there of a smaller project that you would really like to make a difference on, then approach us. We want to do that. We want to extend our desire and passion to do charitable work elsewhere. What I will say is, if you come to us and say, I'd really like some money going here, we'll probably ask you how you're going to help us fundraise, because that's the nature of the beast. We find the money from somewhere. But actually, I think the point you've made about the little things going a long way on some of these UK charities, I absolutely believe that everybody out there knows of some way we can help and wouldn't begrudge. We're not doing it instead of the workplace, we're doing it as well as. And for a lot of people, I mean, myself now, was on the executive, now retired, any effort that I put into the charity isn't taken away from what the CWU is doing, on whether that be on a political, wider trade union or workplace issue. There is we're never going to run out of ways that we can help. What we want people to do is to contact us so that we can direct that where we think the union can make the biggest difference, or the charity can make the biggest difference.
Thanks, Joe. I can see you're eager, Carl.
No, I just thought Julia is amazing. The way she puts it over is far better than I could. I mean, probably I always made sure that my priority was doing my regional secretary's job, and I've been proud to have done that for over 30 years. I probably worked harder as a regional secretary because of CWHA, because I wanted to make sure that I did. You know what I mean? And maybe I felt in the back of the head I didn't want any criticism about what we were doing regarding CWHA. I know we were never going to get any. Yeah. But in the back of my head, I just wanted to make sure. I mean, what we've done, I know what goes on in our workplace.
So what you're saying, if we get every rep involved in CWHA, they're going to be a better rep as well.
I'm not saying that.
See, I told you everyone he was a salesman.
I'm nuts as well. But I know that in our delivery offices, in our call centres and all that, there's amazing work going on.
Yeah.
Raising funds. I mean, we recently, as a region, supported a member from Greater Manchester branch, and so did the branch. And he did amateur boxing to raise funds for a cancer charity. And we supported him. And there's lots of things that go on like that. And what we do in a way is harness that a little bit. So if we get contacted, as Julia said, by a BT engineer, an open reach engineer, somebody works for Pulses Counters, and they're doing something, trying to do some work on charity, to raise money for a charity, we will help them. And we have done that. I mean, I remember we helped a postie who was walking from the UK, from Scotland down to London to raise money for a charity. And Lenny Crook, who's our secretary, Lenny helped logistically to map that out, and we drove the support vehicle, and so we'll do that as a charity. We'll support our members who are trying to raise funds for other charities. We've got that expertise, and I think that's important. We don't just do it for CWHA. We'll help out. So if somebody's doing it for a local charity or whatever, because there's always something that's close to your heart. It could be sort of family connection or something like that. And like I said, we also get contacted by members who need support for their family. Could be a grandchild, could be another family member. And like I said, we are basically a children's charity. So, I think that's important to say. So, and then like I say, if you want to know more about the charity, obviously we've put that email out, but I think, we have helped promote the CWU as well. And I think that's important, and I do think that, and I think we're a bit of an envy of other unions. And as Julia said, our most important thing is to represent our members, to make sure, we get them the best pay deal, we get them the best terms and conditions, and we represent them in the workplace. And we know that, that's our priority. But, we can do other things. And like I said, that's happening every day in the workplace.
Spot on. Julia, I want to talk about branches. Yep. So many CWU branches are affiliated to CWHA and have been for so long, and some new ones coming on board regularly, obviously. To branches that perhaps aren't and haven't had that rapport relationship, obviously a lot of our branch officials would watch the show or catch up on it on the podcast tomorrow. What would your message to them be of the importance and what they'll get out of it as a branch in terms of sort of, the feeling of being part of something special?
Yeah, I mean, the bulk of our money comes from affiliations. Mm-hmm. We have lots of individual fundraising events, like I said about the hike. So we get big chunks of money, like at conference this year. And I think we should put praise out to Ralph Ferret as well. You talk about him being a salesman.
Oh, God.
Ralph Ferret at conference this year. I mean, talk about selling ice to Eskimos. So there are big events, whether that be big CWU events where we try and raise money, or whether that be individuals doing different fundraising. But the bulk of our regular guaranteed income comes from affiliations. Those affiliations can be from regions, can be from branches, or can be from individual members. So what we'd ask is anybody who is already, if the branch or region can possibly up that, bearing in mind inflation, if you can just keep on top of how much you're donating. Anybody who's not yet, I hope people have seen from this why we think it's important to help us. But also, I'm aware that individual members will be watching this. Yeah. And like you said, how do we get across to people that it's as important as our other activism? there may be individual members out there who have no desire at all to be a CWU activist. You know, they're a member for all the reasons of the CWU is helping them in the workplace, but have got no desire to be an activist. But if you're one of those members who've got no desire to be an activist but want to make a difference, then bring it on. You know, come to us. We'll
give
help
Julie
you.
a call.
Yeah, give me a call or contact us. We will help you to do that. And individual affiliation, like I've said, £40 a year in Africa for one child. If you can give us a couple of pound a month as an affiliation, as an individual, but as I say, the main area is for branches to do a larger monthly donation. Hopefully, no member will begrudge some of the money coming our way, because it is just so important.
Thank you. Carl, you want to come in?
Yeah, I also think if you're interested in doing any fundraising, some wacky ideas. We mentioned Ralph, who had his hair shaved, his head shaved. We had a guy called Gary Ingram who grew a beard. He looked like a Yeti, and he had that shaved off by Paul Moffat at conference. And so I know this year, we mentioned Lenny Cook before. Lenny's doing the 10K, and at the same time, near enough the same time, he's doing the 10K here in the UK. My daughter Maddie is going to be doing a 10K in Sydney as well. Well, she's over there. So we've got that going on. We've got the Longmynd hike. So we've always got some. We've got Matt, we mentioned, who's doing the 1,000-mile bike ride, cycle ride. So if you want to raise any funds for us, you might not want to get involved in doing the convoys, but you're thinking of doing some fundraising, then please get in touch with us. Julia heads up our fundraising, does a brilliant job doing that. So, you know, we rely on that type of things. We don't do corporate or anything like that. So we rely on our members helping us raise funds. We rely on branches and individual affiliations. You know, I mean, like you say, on some occasions when we're doing the convoys, we actually say to people, well, if you want to give us a donation, why don't you buy us some of the aid that we're taking? Because we never take what we what we believe they should have. We ask for wish lists. So we get these wish lists. So we have many times a branch will go, well, I'll tell you what, we'll buy you the bedding. We'll buy you some of the food that's on the list and so on. So that's a good thing, because then they know that's going to get to the destination and we're going to deliver it direct.
30 years, Julie, is a good landmark.
Yep.
It's a great one. Yeah. What are the sort of, other than all the sort of relentless and continual and standard plans, have you got any special ways to mark the 30 years this year?
Yes, on the 2nd of August, we're having a anniversary celebration at the Corn Country, I'll get it wrong, it's Corn Grange. I live near to Corn, and there's two hotels there. It's Corn Grange Hotel on the 2nd of August. We are holding a celebration meal and an evening, so people can buy tickets for that. Obviously, some of that will then help us to raise funds. A big chunk of it will go. We're asking branches or regions if they're prepared to sponsor a table, so that's their contribution to it. But also, if any individual wants to attend that, that is our big marking of the occasion. And getting back to what we said about Andy, we are linking the 30th anniversary with marking our thanks to Andy as well. So hopefully there will be a lot of people who want to both celebrate our 30 years and the success of the charity and the work we've done. Obviously that it will be very much around explaining what we've done over the 30 years, but also to help us to raise the extra bit so we get that 40,000 target beat. So yes, that's on the 2nd of August. And the one biggie that happens every year, as we've said, is the Longmynd hike, which is the last Saturday of August. If any individual members or any activists want to join us, again, contact us. We can let you know the details of the hike. You don't have to be prepared to do a long hike. Yeah. It is more about being there and being part of something. And I don't think there's a single person who's ever taken part in that hike hasn't gone away from that. A lot of people make it a weekend of it, but don't go away from that feeling that they really are a part of something. So anybody who's interested in joining us on that, you'll be very welcome.
Thank you. Carl, I want to give you, go on. You want to?
No, go.
I want to give you both now, starting with you, Carl, the opportunity to get any sort of final thoughts across to the members tonight.
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody, because I think that's most important. I was always going to finish with that. I just want to thank all the branches, all the members, all the regions, headquarters, you know, the comms department, because obviously they help us out because they do a lot of our comms. Companies like Pellecraft who do our website and have helped us with donating items, and we've had so many companies. But I've got to say, you know, our branches and our members and our regions, without them we wouldn't be able to do. And we have a bit of a saying, delivering smiles, because that's what we're about. So we've been delivering smiles in the name of the CWU for 30 years, and we couldn't have done it without that support. And like I say, I'm so pleased that we're able to announce today that we're going to do some more work with Romel Group, Openreach and BT. I mean, that's good news. And that, so yeah, we might look at doing some other things for our 30th anniversary. We might look at doing some exhibitions somewhere to show the work that we've done in the name of the CWU and the trade union movement.
Thanks, Carl. Fantastic. Julie, do you have any final words?
Really, you've stole the thunder. It is about thanking people. We couldn't do any of this without our members and the support, and also to our family and friends. Because I do feel that sometimes that we, you know, there is a pool of people out there helping us, and obviously members and branches are key to that. But because of how passionate we are, we do seem to go back to the same people time and time again. And I would genuinely like to thank, you know, you've said Maddie out in Sydney doing a 10K. Our family and friends take the brunt of it, because there's not a single event that we don't say, well, come on, you know,
yeah, I've got
we need your support.
Yes, I've got Chris, my lad,
yeah.
he's doing a 10K as well in Blackpool.
Yeah.
So we've got him doing running as well. So yeah, the family, we do rely.
Yeah.
But we've got like Becky, Lenny's daughter, who's got interested in it.
Yeah.
We talk about it all the time. She's now a trustee and very active within the charity. So it has become
the passion's contagious. I don't think no trustees' children escape, because they see how important it is to us. So yeah, I mean, that's the main thing to thank you, but also to thank you, Chris, for the opportunity to do this and to try and get that message across. It's invaluable to us. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Let's continue to thank yous, and thank you both. I think you've done a brilliant job tonight, and I think you do a brilliant job all year round. So like, we really do appreciate it, and I think you know, David, the General Secretary, had asked me to pass on that thanks to you two as well, and the charity as a whole. So thank you to Carl, thank you to Julia, thank you to you all for tuning in. As both Carl and Julia have said so passionately tonight, I think it's been an incredibly impactful session. Please just get involved, you know, whether that's just a bit of fundraising, whether that's an affiliation, whether that's you want to get on a convoy, or you want to actually, if you so taken by, you know, one of the Julia or Carl's contributions, you want to get in a lorry or you want to get on a plane over to Tanzania, just do it. And the contact details are probably on screen now. They've been on screen a few times tonight. Other than that, I think it's just over to me to say thank you to you both again. Good night, and we'll see you all next week.